My thanks to John Nichols. Good afternoon. Well, the health authorities in WA might have closed down one local seller of electronic cigarettes, but it appears they've had very little effect on the growth of the vaping phenomenon nationally. The Heart Foundation and Healthway were talking tough yesterday about stopping the spread of e-cigarettes, but it looks like they're whistling in the wind. One of the leaders in the market in Australia, Logic Ecigs, says any attempt to ban vaping will just open up a black market and result in some serious health hazards. Logic Ecigs Australian Director Mark Kagan joins me now. Afternoon, Mark.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Well, thanks, Mark. You brand yourself, the company brands itself as a leader in premium electronic cigarettes. Does that mean you're the biggest importer of the devices and nicotine liquids in Australia?
No nicotine. We're not allowed to import nicotine whatsoever. But my American-based company is the biggest in America now, number one in the States.
So is it owned by a tobacco company?
No, it's a privately owned. Two guys put it together about 6 years ago, and they've built up the biggest e-cig company in the States now.
Because I know some of the big tobacco companies, like Philip Morris, for example, have got into e-cigarettes now, which is actually being used against the vaping phenomenon by health authorities.
The conversation always includes nicotine. When everybody talks about e-cigs, they include nicotine. Nicotine's banned in Australia. You can't import it for resale. It's a Schedule 7 poison.
In non-commercial quantities you can.
And people are, and that's one of the other problems. People are, and they're putting it into their vaporizers in unregulated amounts. So that is an issue that concerns the government.
So
people are also importing privately nicotine electronic cigarettes for their own use for 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
So that is happening at the moment, whether we like it or not.
So you can sell what you're selling in Australia quite legally now?
Yes, mine have no nicotine, but only in some states. It's been banned in WA, as you know. I believe Queensland's talking about it, and South Australia's very strict on it as well.
But if I wanted to buy something from you by mail from Western Australia, would you sell to me?
As long as you're not reselling it, yeah, for your individual use, not a problem.
And if I wanted to use it to vape some sort of nicotine product, there'd be nothing stopping me from doing that either?
My product won't let you do that because my flavouring cartridge is sealed at manufacture, so it won't let you do that. It's only the ones that you unscrew the top and you have an actual glass jar. That's what you can add to and subtract from. Mine are pre-made in China and sealed, so you can't actually adjust them.
And another cartridge, a nicotine-containing cartridge, wouldn't be compatible with it?
You can't get it in Australia. Oh, you mean if you imported it, the cartridges from overseas? Yeah, you probably could. Yep, definitely.
Most people who ring into this program, we've had this discussion going on now most of the year. Most people who talk to me are getting their nicotine products without any problem at all and importing them themselves in non-commercial quantities.
Correct, and there's no regulation on it whatsoever. I'm all for regulation. I actually am for the nicotine product to come into Australia in correct quantities and regulated. But at the moment, they're even talking about banning non-nicotine, non-tobacco products like my Logic Zero, which is crazy. As far as I'm concerned, I know it's not TGA approved, and we can't advertise it as a way to give up smoking, but 93% of the people that contact me do so because they want to give up smoking or want someone in their family to give it up, and I sell it to them. And the government says to me, oh, we're trying to ban that without even attempting to use it for its purpose. It's incredible. They
seem to think they can hold back the tide of vaping, but if you actually have a look at what's happening in America, that's going to be pretty unlikely, isn't it?
Huge. It's up to $2 billion business there now. Bonnie Herzog from Wells Fargo has actually made a statement saying it's going to overtake the smoking industry in 10 years, which is a big, bold statement, but it's huge. It's enormous. And it's all over Europe. You go to Paris or anywhere like that, they have actual vaping shops. You just walk in, have a bit of a vape and walk out.
Yeah, I've actually, a friend of mine who's holidaying in Paris at the moment, has just yesterday, because he's been listening to me online in Paris, and he's sent me a whole lot of pictures of vaping shops in Paris. He says they're everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, and they're full of nicotine. So it's, and there's all different levels of nicotine as well. So
So, okay, you are advocating regulation. What should the regulations cover?
Well, there are some electronic cigarettes out there that, to get around the tobacco legislation, they don't look like a cigarette. They look like a coloured pencil. So because they don't look like a cigarette, they get past some of the, like the South Australian regulations. And then they offer bubblegum chocolate, coffee flavours, which I think are attractive to children. And as far as I'm concerned, they should be regulated like the old confectionery cigarettes have been all banned because they look like cigarettes. I think that sort of stuff, which is attractive to children, should not be allowed in the marketplace.
See, the WA legislation is aimed at that too, isn't it? The WA legislation bans things that look like cigarettes. That's what they got Mr Van Heerden on here in WA.
Which is even more ridiculous because they ban all electronic cigarettes, irrespective of what type they are, and his don't look like a cigarette at all.
Yeah.
They're a glass jar, you have to push a button, you have to fill it, all sorts of different things. I'm not saying I like that concept because people put all sorts of stuff in it, but they certainly don't look like a cigarette. I mean, I think the case was decided on the fact that because it looks like smoking, they're going to ban it.
Do you see evidence that vaping is being used as a gateway to smoking for young people? Because this is an argument being advanced by the health authorities now.
Yeah, I hear that argument all the time, and I can't say that it's not relevant. All I'm saying is that this is the best invention in the last 50 years to help people quit, even though it's not approved by anybody. And on that basis, why ban it? Use it to assist. Let one person give up smoking as a result, and we've done a good job. But no, they want to ban it completely throughout all the states.
I just wonder whether they can ban it. I mean, there appears to be, if it's not banned in the biggest markets in the world like America, etc., then given the abilities of the internet these days, they're going to have to be at every post office, at every letterbox in Australia to make sure that this stuff isn't coming in.
Correct, and it'll come in greater amounts as the Australian public learn more about it. And look what they're doing with cigarettes. I mean, they are increasing excise duties and pricing. So what's happening? We're getting a lot of really cheap, I don't know where they're manufactured, cigarettes coming into Australia, which are of what sort of quality I do not know. But it's a huge market happening at the moment. Huge market.
If they regulate it, of course, they'll probably want to tax it as well, because if you're right, if your analyst is right, that cigarettes get overtaken by vaping by 2020, there's a massive fall in tax revenues there.
Massive. I'm not a cynical person, but it's massive. Let them regulate it, let them tax it, I don't mind. But don't ban it.
You have some figures. I think you're quoting a figure of 90% of the people who are customers of your business are doing it to give up smoking.
93% of about 550 people that have contacted me in the last 9 months have contacted me for that reason. They want someone in their family, they want to reduce or give up or smoke alternatively e-cigs with normal cigs, because there's a belief that e-cigs have got to be healthier than normal cigarettes.
Good to talk to you. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Mark Kagan, Australian Director of Logic e-cigs. What restrictions, if any, would you place on e-cigarettes? 9211 882 is our number.